What is up? What is going on, everybody? I am back with the Mariners postgame, back to the old style. It's been a while. We've had a lot of live streams here, so we're doing it classic, just the postgame recap. Um, Before I get started, if you're new here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button for me. I'm like 2 subs away from, or excuse me, two. I am 32 subs away from 1,500, which is my next goal. If you guys can help me out, hit that subscribe button for all the Mariners content, doing live streams 2 to 3 times a week. We'll definitely have Seahawks videos as we get closer to football season and all kinds of Mariners talk. The Mariners lose 6-4 to the Orioles in 10 innings. They drop to, I believe, 4 and 7 in extra inning games. I guess technically not a one-run loss. We don't have to talk about that, but it kind of felt like that. And a couple people messaged me and asked me if I was as frustrated this game as I was Wednesday. Not frustrated necessarily as much as Wednesday, because Wednesday felt like a game where they went in as a favorite and couldn't even really, it just couldn't get it going, and Luis Castillo kind of had it done and everything. I didn't go into this game thinking, oh, this is a game the Mariners are just better than the Orioles and they should win. But it's frustrating because it's just, this team is not winning. See from the title, they're not winning the coin flip games this year. They're just not. And I don't expect them to be as good as they were in 2021 or 2022, but they've just regressed this year to not only, I believe, are they 8-14 in one-run games, but I imagine their record in two-run games is not that great either. I don't have it in front of me, so don't quote me on that, but I'm going to take a shot in the dark. It's not that great. They're 4 and 7 in extra innings. This is all stuff. They were just 500 in these things. This is probably a pretty good baseball team. I mentioned this on Twitter. The Mariners have outscored their opponents on this road trip in New York and Baltimore 30-16. They're 2 and 3. That is frustrating, and I'm going to say that's a little bit of bad luck. If you have a run diff of plus 14, you should not be losing 3 out of 5 games. Now, it's a small sample size of games. It does happen. I'm not coming back on here to make this like, Jay, you've been kind of on this team now. You're saying they're great. No, I don't think they've been great. And a lot of that, some of it is their own undoing, but they have not been getting a lot of breaks this season. Even with the bullpen today, like Matt Brash comes in, gets the ground ball. Of course it goes in for a hit somewhere. Those were times they got out of those innings last year. In the 8th inning, they had second and third, one out. They don't score. They scored in those situations last year and the year before. The 10th inning, this is the type of game, Mike Ford hits that home run in the 9th inning. They win this game in the 10th inning. Last week, the White Sox kind of do the same thing to the Mariners. They score a run in the 9th by kind of another little seeing eye single, and the Mariners can't get that hit that the Orioles got today. You know what I mean? Like, it's those little things. It's little things that just, whether that's bad luck, whether that's bad baseball, I don't know. I think it's a mix of both. But it's those little things that's cost the team. The Mariners actually, I believe, have a better run differential than the Orioles this season. I mean, again, I always say run differential is not everything, and I'm not saying that to like make anybody doubt the Orioles or say anything like, oh, the Mariners should be great, but it goes to show it can be a game of inches. It really can. There are definitely some scenarios, what do they say, the alternate universes, where this Mariners team is probably 42 and 33 right now. Even with the same way they've played, as much as some of these guys are struggling, even with all that, there are probably some universes where this team is still winning baseball games. They're just not winning those things this year. And again, some of it's their own undoing. Like the 8th inning, like that's on them for leaving those runners on. And the 10th inning, they didn't even move Colton Wong from second base. JP, Julio, and Ty got to come through there. Julio had a great game. I'm not going to say anything about him, but just things like that, where giving up a home run to Ryan McKenna. Last year it's even things like that. They get Adley Rushman out without moving the runner over, but then Ryan McKenna hits the walk-off home run. So just some frustrating stuff there. Let's go through the box score a little bit. Bryce Miller wasn't sharp. I thought he battled against a good offense. He was certainly not great. 4 1/3, 6 hits, 3 runs, 3 earned, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. Again, he was not very good necessarily, threw a lot of pitches. But he did what we've seen other pitchers do against the Mariners sometimes, where they're able to at least battle through it and keep their teams in game. Was Bryce Miller great? No, but he did at least get them in a position where they did have a chance to win this game. He's a rookie. I'm not going to get on Bryce Miller too much for anything unless it's just really, really bad. The bullpen, Gabe Spire gives up the home run to Aaron Hicks, again with 2 outs. You know what I mean? It's just stuff like that where it's, you got 2 outs, nobody on, they give the home run. Andres Munoz. Now, the good news is it sounds like Munoz, as he came out of the game after 2/3, it was an illness. Now, that stinks for Munoz, and I hope he's feeling better, but no arm, foot, any injury like that. So, maybe out a day or so, but it looks like Munoz is going to be fine. Sewald gets through the ninth. Adcock does a nice job. Julio with that great catch in center field. Justin Topa, who is struggling a bit as of late. Topa hasn't quite been the dominant reliever that he was early in the year. I still think Justin Topa is fine. I just think he's more of a middle relief guy than a true setup man. Maybe you go to Topa in the ninth there and Sewald in the 10th. It's something that, maybe you think about doing that. Let Topa pitch with nobody on. But you're also at that point, like, you can't manage for innings that don't exist. I'm not saying you don't have to sometimes look ahead, but if you're Scott and you put in Topa and you go, well, why don't you use Paul Sewald? It's like, well, I'm saving for the 10th. Well, you might not get to the 10th. So it's hard to manage for innings that you don't have yet necessarily. So let's look at the box score. JP was 2 for 5 with a home run and a single. Good to see from JP. Good to have him back in the lineup. Looks like he's healthy. Really nice game from Julio. 3 for 5. Had the home run that tied it in the 6th. Ty's 18-game on-base streak comes to an end 0 for 5. Teo 0 for 4. That middle of the order really struggled. Another reason they lost this game. Jared Kelenic 0 for 3 with a walk. Gino was 0 for 4. He was punched out in a really bad call in the 6th inning. Cal was 1 for 4. How about Mike Ford? 2 for 4, 2 home runs. Listen, do I think Mike Ford is the answer at DH? I don't necessarily think he's the answer, but he's certainly done a nice job in adding those occasional home runs. Even if he's not necessarily, a guy that's going to get a lot of base hits and stuff like that, it certainly gives him a lot of value. That ball he hit off Bautista was crushed. It's funny, I was watching it, and I kind of had to watch it on a low volume. We were at a party, and so I had it on very low volume. I thought Ford flew out, actually, initially, because the way he kind of ducked his head, I was like, he got under. Then I saw it get out, and I'm like, Mike Ford was pimping that home run a little bit. He had the bat flip. He wasn't not looking at it because it flew out. He wasn't not looking at it because it was so far out. So 2 home runs for Mike Ford today. Really good to see there as well. So, again, not a game that necessarily makes me that mad. I didn't expect them to sweep Baltimore. But a game they could have won. And another coin flip game that they just can't pull out. Another game where they had a chance to go over 500. Now they're back below 500. A game where they had a chance to get this winning streak to 3, keep it going, and they couldn't do it. They, like I said, this road trip, 2-3, and they have a plus 14 run differential. Again, some of that thrown on doing, but the 3 games that have been close, they've lost. Every blowout, they've won. And if you are kind of wondering, you're like, who cares? Wins and loss, all that matters. It is at the end. Run differential is just, it ties into Pythagorean win and loss. Teams that outscore their opponents by a lot of runs, or it's football, a lot of points, tend to be better teams. They tend to win more games. They're usually winning blowouts. Teams with good records and negative run differentials or point differentials usually tend to be they're winning all the close games, but they're getting blown out a lot. The 21 Mariners, I think, went, a negative 50, 60 run differential. They were winning every close game and losing a lot of blowouts. That doesn't mean they were bad. That doesn't mean that there's not some skill involved there. But for the most part, good teams in all sports have good point differentials. The 2013 Seahawks, not positive, pretty sure they had like a plus 190, 200 point differential. They were blowing people out. Yeah, there's always going to be some close games. But, and then the notion is usually coin flip games like this where it's, and I say coin flip because the point is this game could have gone either way. Now, that's not taking away from Baltimore. They obviously did the better job in the end and got the W. But games where it's like, maybe Gunnar Henderson throws that ball away in the 8th inning and the Mariners score. Things like that can happen. The Mariners just kind of dropping all these coin flip games. They really have been in some ways the opposite of what they've been the last couple of years. They really have been in a lot of ways. There have been some frustrating losses. Wednesday was really frustrating from the standpoint of I thought going in they were the better team there and they needed Luis Castillo to step up. He did not. Today wasn't so much that. I didn't go into this game going, oh man, Bryce Miller versus Dean Kramer, they should dominate this. But it's just a game that ended up being close and they can't pull it out. They're winning these blowouts. I mean, if we want to look at looking at the series, look at the road trip, but look at just this series. I mean, Mariners outscored the Jays 17-7. They're 1-1. They've you know what I mean. So it's frustrating that they're winning the blowouts, which is awesome, but then they can't win these coin flips. They've got to find a way to turn some of those around. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, whether that's just bad luck and the luck coming around, or whether there's something going on here with the team that's just not making them win the games. Another reason I would point to it being a little bit of luck is that they were so good in these games the last 2 years. Did all these guys just forget how to win close games? No, it's just sometimes when you win a lot of those games, it is just some things going your way. And this year the Mariners have been the polar opposite. And again, I want to be clear, I'm not expecting them. They're 8-14 in one-run games, 4-7 in extras. I'm not expecting them to be, 14-8 and 8-3 in extras or whatever it is. But 6-5 in extras, 11-11 in one-run games would change this team's fortune a lot right now and how we think of them. With that said, though, it's a loss. It's a loss, and they're now a game under 500. It's another back and forth. Hopefully they can win the series tomorrow. Still a chance to do that, and that would be a big positive for this team. Again, they have not won a road series since Oakland. I mean, that was back in early May. I mean, maybe like the second week in May. It's been a while. It's been a while since this team's able to win a series on the road. They've got a chance tomorrow, George Kirby going, so they can still do that. That would be a huge positive. You cannot be mad about going into a good team like Baltimore and winning a series. You can't. But they had a chance to do that today. This game was there for them. And listen, had the Mariners won, Baltimore could have said the same thing, and I would have agreed. I would have agreed 100%. The game was there for them to win too. But yeah, the Mariners have got to find a way somehow to pull this one out and get the series. Don't want to go back home 2 games under, and then needing that sweep to of Washington, get back over 500. And you had a nice little run going. You had that big win over the Yankees, the big win yesterday. You want to keep that momentum going. You lose tomorrow, and again, you undo it. And that's kind of been this team's downfall this year. That they get some wins, they get some momentum, they just undo it right away. So frustrating that they just, for whatever reason it is, whether it's their own ineptitude, whether it's managerial stuff, I don't think it is. Because here's the thing, if you're mad at Scott for the one-run losses, and you're going to say, well, they're losing it because Scott's mismanaging things, then why did they win the last 2 years? Listen, I'll be honest, I do not give Scott Service credit for the one-run wins the last 2 years. I'm not going to sit here and say, Scott was pushing all the right buttons. I think the players play, and I think they did a good job in some clutch situations. I'm sure some of it was Service making some right calls, but some of it's a little luck as well. That's my take on it. And I'm kind of in the same boat this year. The players have got to play. I'm sure there's been some things Service could do better. I'm not saying that. But it's also some things just not going their way. I don't think if you're going to not give Service credit, then you can't really blame him when they're losing those games, is all I'm saying. That's just my take on it. And again, people can differ on that. That's totally fine. If you do, let me know if you think there's a coaching issue. And again, I don't think Scott Service is some untouchable manager that how dare he be criticized. I don't think, he's on the same level as the guy that's coaching across the street at Lumen Field who has some rings and some titles to show for what he's done. But I don't know until there's not much you can do, I think, in my opinion, until this team just, they got to score those runs in the extra inning. They can't give up the 2-out home runs. They've got to, when you get Adley Rutschman out to start the 10th inning, you've got to get out of that inning there. That's big, that first out. And Mullins had to stay on second base. Now you just need to get the hitters out here. Tope had a chance to do that and couldn't do it. You've got to find a way to get out of those innings. You know what I mean? So let's see. Hopefully they can bounce back tomorrow and get a series win. And rebound it. Not as mad as Wednesday, certainly, at this game, but it's just frustrating they can't find a way to win these games. They've got to win some of these coin flips. They've got to find a way, or it's just not going to work out for them. So we'll see. Hopefully they bounce back tomorrow. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. As always, leave a comment for me. I love engaging with you guys. Agree, disagree, so we all want the Mariners to win. I know we all have that in common. Have a great night, everybody. Enjoy your Saturday. I will see you guys tomorrow with the postgame recap, and we'll be doing Monday live as usual for the Nationals and the Mariners. And that'll be a Luis Castillo start. Time for him to bounce back. George Kirby tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody. Peace. Go Mariners.